what did you know about him, and where did you get most of the information that you knew about your dad?
I knew that he was in the military, that he had been in the military. I knew that I had a brother, an older brother. I knew that my older brother's mother had passed away. I don't know. I mean, I had a baby book, and pretty much what I knew of him came from that book. There were a couple of pictures, I think, at Disney World or Disneyland, and he was always kind of a mystery to me. My mother remarried when I was 4, so I did not go without that male influence or a dad. So I don't know that I thought a whole lot about it. I didn't really think about him a lot until I became older and a little bit rebellious as a teenager, and I was like, I'm gonna find my dad and live with him. You know, I was just threatening. Like, I was just being a rebellious teenager. I was like, he's in California. I knew that. He's in California, and California is way better than Texas, and I'm going. You know, but that was about the end of the threat. My mother did not speak negatively about him. My grandmother always spoke well of him. I did see his mother, my grandmother, from time to time, because my mother said, you know, her mother-in-law, which would be my father's mother, was always gracious to her. So I knew bits and pieces, but I did not know. He was a mystery to me the whole time.
Right. Well, Merlin, you know, and this comes from a person who I'm a daddy's girl, so I cannot imagine what it would have been like, you know, growing up in a household without my dad being there. And it's only because he was there, really, that I, you know, turned out being a daddy's girl, and I know that. So, you know, how did not being in your children's life affect you as a man? Did it affect you in any way that made you feel less than or made you feel guilty or whatever by actually not being in your children's life?
I don't like to use the term guilty, or terms that are judgmental, but I tend to, from as far back as I can remember of myself, I take life as it is, and I don't speculate about what it could have been or what it would be. I deal with what I have. I don't complain. I don't know if it's known, but the time, 6.5 years that I spent as a homeless person, I in the back of my mind wondered, and I still do wonder, if that's God's punishment for me for abandoning my family. I mean, I live with these realities daily, but I just accept it as it is, and I don't complain.
Yeah. Wow. Well, Michelle, you saw your dad when you were a little girl, 4th grader, and then he reached out to you after you reached your adulthood. So how do you react to that? Were you happy? Were you angry? I mean, what kind of emotions were you feeling after him not being in your life for all of your, like, formative years, those years that probably a little girl would have needed her daddy, you know, and then to reconnect as an adult? You know, what was that like?
I think as a child, like I said, my mother remarried, so I always had a dad, and I still do call him my dad. So I didn't go without that male influence. I can't say that I was a daddy's girl. I was a mama's girl. Is that something you can be? I think.
Yeah, you can. Absolutely, you can be a mama's girl.
I was a mama's girl until I got to be about 12, and then, you know, things went a little haywire for a while there. But I don't. And then when I saw him at the age of 10, I just remember being really, really nervous about that. We met, and then I just kind of moved on with life. Like, okay, I met my father. All right, I kind of look like him. And then when he reached out to me again in college, because there was I was at a small college, and a fellow student had the same last name as me, because I have my father's last name, my biological father's last name. And he reached out to me in a letter. I didn't really accept the explanation that was given for our disconnection, and I think I wrote him back something real nasty. I don't know, was it nasty,
I don't know. I vaguely remember the situation.
Okay, so I think it was nasty, but then because I think I just was nasty when I was 18. I mean, I'm still a teenager. I'm still like, it's my world.
Yeah.
And then when we saw each other again in 2004, I believe it was, when my grandmother passed away at the funeral, because we didn't see each other from, like, we didn't have any contact between, I think, 90 and 2004. I was in a different place just as a believer and as a grown woman with my own family, and recognized at that time that he was reaching out to me to establish a relationship, not necessarily as father and daughter in the traditional sense, but by my definition, two adults with a common bond, a common history, I guess, or some common genes at least, who are in a position to get to know each other. And I think that has been pleasant for me. It's a little bit, I'm still a little bit nervous sometimes, like a 10-year-old girl, like I'm going to see my father, and I'm, 40-something years old. But it is a pleasant thing for me now. I never was angry about anything.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, do you think, Michelle, not having Merlin as your biological father in your life affected your childhood at all? I know you say you had a dad because your mother remarried, so you didn't go without that, father figure and that dad being there in your life. When you talk about the rebellious stage and all of that you went through, do you connect that in any way to the absence of your biological father or not?
No, I don't. Part of my rebellion was just being 16, and then part of it was my mother suffered a car accident when I was 12, and so that holds the trauma of all of that, of her not being there, and then her, going through all this rehab, and me suddenly becoming the mom of the family. That was really the foundation for all of that. It wasn't. I to this day don't think of myself as having missed out because I didn't have my biological father in my life. I think if anything, if there was any missing out, I sadly would say that it was that he missed out on a lot of the things that happened in my life. But it's been neat. Like I said, as an adult now, he knows who my son is. My son has gone out there to visit California, and my father picked him up. And it's so funny because my father and my son they're both like free spirits, and it's weird. Mm-hmm. What you say, Merlin? You and Steve?
Right. Yeah, right, for sure.
Yeah. So it's neat that he gets to see who I am as just as an author and as a mother, and to kind of just kind of keep up, especially social media helps you kind of keep up with your family now.
Yeah. So Merlin, how would you describe your relationship with your children and even your grandchildren now? Like how do you feel being reconnected and in their lives at this point and where they are? So what do you feel about your current relationship with them?
There's a term that has been thrown about for many, many years, and it's the term biological father. That term disturbs me in that it's a divide between Michelle and me, and my grandkids. Take out that one word, biological, and the meaning shifts. I mean, there's semantic shifts somewhere. I've never referred to Michelle as my biological daughter. I mean, granted, that's what it is, but she's always been my daughter. She's never been my biological daughter. That's something that our language lets us do. Language separates us, and that one term in itself has, it's a wedge, if you will.
Right.
I have 7 grandchildren, and it's a matter of 7 different personalities that I have to deal with. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely awesome. It's a big time blessing, and I think as Michelle is about to become a grandma, and thank God she'll be one of 5 generations alive. That's a blessing. So I mean, I'm excited about the interaction that Michelle and I are having as adults. It's spectacular. I don't know that it could be better.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, and I'm gonna have to say I totally agree with you on that end where it comes to the use of the word biological, the use of the word step when referring to fathers, and children and things like that, and that's something that we don't use even in my family, and we have a blended family because my husband, who was the quote-unquote biological father of my daughters, passed away when they were young, and I've remarried, and my current husband does not see them as anything other than his daughters. He never uses the word stepdaughter, and they don't use the word stepdad, and things like that for him.
Right.
So, yeah, I can totally see your point where that is actually concerned. Do you feel the same way, Michelle?
No, I use the term simply to distinguish between Merlin and Michael.
Yeah. Okay. And so, but do you see when you look at your family with Merlin being there and the man who raised you, all being there, do you see a divide there as far as the lines of fatherhood having, two different ones there?
Yeah, I do see that. I do see that biological, it does kind of sound like sperm donor. I can see that.
Right.
I can see how it would sound that way to somebody else, and I hadn't considered that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So have you, Michelle, have you forgiven your dad? Have you forgiven Merlin for, not being there when you were young and growing up and all of that? Are there still like leftover feelings, harsh feelings, or if there ever were, Amy, how are you feeling now?